Good morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. Going to talk about a subject that I've brought up before, but I think it's going to be... I brought a copy of the brochure and some information, so I'm not trying to just speak to things from memory and maybe go in a little more detail. And I realized one of the things I didn't bring, let me see if I can get that. Took a picture of a quote I did yesterday. So as you know, my office is on South Jefferson. As I'm recording this, this show may air a couple of weeks after I'm recording it, but on South Jefferson, from the interstate down to, the entrance into Avery Trace Middle School is now shifted over to the other side of the road, but basically would be the northbound lanes once they split it up to we've got a 5-lane road there. But it happened while I was at work yesterday. It was so funny. I had a client come in and he was telling me he wasn't sure how to get into the parking lot because there was cones and everything. And I'm kind of like, it's usually pretty easy to get in and look out. And I realize I look out the window and go, there's another set of yellow lines there, and the cars are on that side. So I don't think it's going to be an issue getting into our parking lot. It may be a little confusing because there's going to be barrels you have to come around to come into the entrance. But since they'd already kind of paved on that side, I don't think we're going to have a lot of disruption to our parking lot. So I think it's going to be a little easier for us, and it's going to be a lot easier now for those that are on that north side of the street. So that's going to help. Or I say north, I guess it's the east side of the street. But I want to talk about short-term care or home health care. I will say the name of the company. I probably won't get in trouble for it here on the radio. I've just recently started working with this company called Heartland National, and they have a home health care plan that I think can be very useful for a lot of not just my clients, but my listeners. Hopefully, maybe this is something will make sense to you. And one of the neat things about this plan is you really do not have to, you're not just in perfect health, you don't even have to be in great health to get this plan. And the reason I bring this up, this is a great alternative. Maybe I shouldn't say alternative, but a great backup, or how I'm losing the word I wanted to say. But I guess alternative is still going to be that, hey, if you didn't get long-term care insurance, maybe it was offered through an employer when you were in your 40s and you just decided it wasn't worth spending that. But you probably can't get traditional long-term care now. Your health may not be the greatest. You may have had a heart attack, in the last 6 months or whatever, or you've been in the hospital. All those things will be, as we call them in insurance business, those are knockouts. Those are, a knockout is they knock you out of the application you're trying to apply for. So I'm going to actually cover the part of what we call the underwriting of the questions that you have to answer. And if you answer yes to any of them, then that is a knockout. But there's only 4 questions, and actually there's 3 levels of the plan I'm going to discuss. Question number 4 only applies to that top level. So you could still get the level 1 and level 2, and I'll go over the names of those levels. But or sometimes we can refer to it, bronze, silver, gold. That's not the way they classify them, but if you just kind of think of it in that way. But here's the health questions, and this is how easy it is to get approved for this plan. Question 1. Are you currently receiving assistance or supervision to perform activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, getting, or have an inability to control bowel or bladder function? Are you currently receiving home health care services or confined in a rehabilitation facility, nursing facility, or an assisted living facility? Within the past 12 months, have you been diagnosed as having been prescribed medication for or received medical advice or treatment from a licensed healthcare professional for Alzheimer's disease, dementia, or memory loss? So those are the 3 knockouts for the bronze and the silver. If you decided you want to go for the complete package, which would be the kind of the gold here, this is if applying for the complete package, in the next 60 days, do you expect to be admitted to a hospital, nursing home, assisted living facility, or require home health care services or have surgery? And the reason I bring up that, or you have surgery, now you can have surgery, and then after you've recovered from the surgery, you can get this plan. So if you've got surgery scheduled in the next 2 months, this is probably not going to be the right option for you. But those are the knockout questions. So if you had to answer yes to any one of those questions, then you would not be eligible for this plan. So it's pretty easy. And it's not going to ask, it doesn't ask your height and weight, doesn't ask if you're diabetic, whether you have COPD, whether you have cancer, had a heart attack. Doesn't ask any of those questions. Now it falls under what we generally call guaranteed issue. It's not guaranteed issue because there are these 4 questions you have to get through, but you're not going to be turned down just having a pre-existing condition. And there's one small limitation is you cannot use this policy for anything we consider pre-existing condition in the first 6 months of having the policy. And it could be one of those things, like I said, if you're not receiving home health services, maybe you had a heart attack, but you're doing okay, and you get the plan. In 7 months after you get the plan, you have another heart attack, and because it's your second one, you're having more issues and you're needing more help at home, you could claim on this plan. So that's one example. And heart attacks maybe not really the thing we think of on this one. It's going to be more, a lot of times, one of the examples I was listening to somebody recently talking about, and unfortunately the client they were talking about didn't have this plan. And she had a hip replacement. And she had to hire outside help to help her for a month or two after her surgery to assist her at home. And she paid about $5,000 for that. If she'd had this plan, it would have covered those services. And one of the things a lot of people get confused, and that's why I kind of harp on this. One is I'm not a big fan of. You've heard me say that. I know if you're a longtime listener to the show, you've already heard me say I am not a fan of traditional long-term care insurance. And the reason for that is long-term care insurance is a use it or lose it proposition. I would rather you get a life insurance plan that has a long-term care rider or a long-term care rider with a annuity, such as my wife and I have, called annuity care, and it has basically a rider on it that we can actually draw more out than would just a normal annuity if we're using it for our long-term care. And then the other advantage there is that's not taxed. But with that annuity or life insurance plan, if you pass away and don't use your long-term care benefits, you still have a death benefit to pay out to an heir, or within the case of annuity, the money you have in the annuity would go to your heirs. Whereas if you're spending $500, $600, $700 a month on a long-term care policy, you didn't build up a nest egg to leave your heirs. So that's why I've strongly encourage you to get some long-term care coverage on an annuity or a life insurance plan. And there's ways, even if your money's already like in a 401k or your IRA, you can roll that money into an annuity that has these benefits. And you can also do it with life insurance plans. There's different things. There's extra paperwork to fill out, but you basically turn that into your retirement plan. And again, it can be inherited, but you've got this as a backup for your long-term care and not just depleting yours out. And like I said, the big deal there with long-term care is use it or lose it. So if you've got it in something that can be that passed on, that's the preferred way to go. The other issue is generally with long-term care, as I mentioned, you don't have to be in perfect health, but you need to be in relatively good health. You cannot be poor or chronically ill and get long-term care. It's just not going to happen. I've actually had people contact me trying to get long-term care for someone that's getting ready to have surgery, or they that were in the hospital and thought maybe long-term care could help them get to a hospital bed so the person could go home. You can't get insurance like that way. You're already in need of the care. We can't insure that. It doesn't. Insurance is not a way to help you pay for things. Insurance is a way to transfer that risk to cover those big expenses. And the insurance company is hoping you never have to use them, and they invest your money and go from there. So with the short-term home health, you can cover a lot of those expenses. Oh, and that's what I was going to. Home health aid and home health care are not the same thing. That's one of the things I wanted to make sure I covered. Medicare will cover home health care, and that is. So maybe you were in the hospital, using the example of the lady that had the hip replacement. Now you may have she may have a nurse, coming and checking, maybe changing a dressing on the surgery site, taking vitals and things like that. Instead of that person having to go to, get in the car and go to the doctor's office, which probably could be very difficult recovering from surgery. So you can have that home health professional come out, and your insurance is going to pay that. Now, you may have some co-pays on that. It depends. I think they'll cover up to 35 hours, but that's not all in one chunk. They may be spending, an hour and a half, but they're doing healthcare things. They're not changing your bedpans. They're not doing your laundry. They're not getting food for you. They're not helping you to and from the bathroom, all those things. That's not what the home health care is there for. They're there to do the medically necessary stuff. And Medicare covers that, or Medicare Advantage if you have that. They're going to cover those things. But all those other things that you need done, you need help getting on and off the toilet, in and out of the shower, cooking your meals, all those little things that you need help with. That's where the home health aid comes in. It's a little confusing because they use the term health in it. But now sometimes they may be an LPN. A lot of the, it's like who works in the nursing homes. They usually get that the CNA, certified nursing assistant, or LPN. And of course, if they're an RN, then they're probably the nurse that's in charge of that wing or a certain group or a team. But it doesn't have to be someone licensed in that way to do the home health aid. And depending on the company, they all do different services. Some of them will actually go and take your grocery list and go to the store and shop for your groceries and come back and put them away for you, and maybe even and fix your lunch. They're there to help you. And looks like we're coming up on our break, so I'll kind of get back into this of how you can get that help, and we'll be right back.
Join Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity for their Dream Builders Putnam Luncheon, Tuesday, May 13th from 12 to 1 p.m. at The Edge at Life Church. You'll get to hear from donors, homeowners, and volunteers. Admission is $25. And if you're interested in being a table host, please reach out to Casey at 931-528-1711, extension 6. It's Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity's Dream Builders Putnam Luncheon, May 13th. 12 to 1 at The Edge at Life Church.
Hi, this is Mark Gall, your Twin Lakes Business Solutions Consultant. From all of us here at Twin Lakes, congratulations to all the graduating seniors here in the Upper Cumberland. As you graduate, take pride in your hard work and dedication. Cherish the memories you've made along the way with family and friends. And at this time, look forward to what's ahead. Your future is bright, and Twin Lakes is cheering you on every step of the way. Congratulations, class of 2025.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, and we are back. I was talking about the home health services. And like I said, they can come in very handy for like after a surgery, or you can have up to 360 days worth of benefits. And those 360 days aren't always a year. It could be, that could span over a couple, even 3 years if you're not getting the services every day. But I wanted to talk about how these things can come into play and be put in use. One of the first ones, because you can't get the plan if you've already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but if you have a diagnosis with memory issues or early onset of dementia, whatever you would need memory care. That's an instant trigger, as we call it, for this plan to go in effect. The other is your what they call the activities of daily living. We always talk about them as ADLs. It's a little quicker, but I'm gonna read this to you and kind of go over the 6 basic activities. There are other activities of daily living, but it's these 6 that will trigger it's the being in claim status for this plan, and it just has to be 2 of the 6. It doesn't have to be all 6. It doesn't have to be a majority of them, just 2 of them if you need assistance with that. And it could be a short term. It could be, like I said, it could just be after a surgery. But, if you need to recover from a surgery, would you rather do it at home and get the help at home, or do you want to stay in a ward in a skilled nursing facility where you got one person who's taking care of 10 others? So this could come in handy, and it's a good way to pay for it. But anyway, those activities of daily living are bathing, the ability to wash oneself, including getting in and out of the shower or tub. Dressing, the ability to choose, put on, and fasten clothing. Remember, choose kind of sounds funny, but remember I talked about you could be memory issues. Toileting, the ability to use the bathroom, including getting to and from the toilet, using it, and cleaning oneself. And I know as a guy, I could maybe depend on my wife to do that, but I don't want one of my adult daughters having to clean me up after I use the bathroom. It's not so much a gender-specific thing, but if it's like that home health aide and they're going to leave at the end of the day, it's a little more acceptable. You've all been to the doctor and kind of had to do some unpleasant things while you're at the doctor, but you're in that medical setting, so it kind of doesn't bother you as much. But if it's one of your kids, maybe not so much. Transferring, the ability to move from one position to another, such as getting in and out of bed or a chair. Eating, the ability to transfer food from plate to mouth. So that one there, a lot of people are going to, but maybe you were in an accident, you broke both your arms and they're in slings and you can't even bring a spoon to your mouth. That would be one of those ADLs that would qualify you to get the assistance. And incontinence is the ability to control bowel and bladder functions. If you're having to wear the adult diapers because you can't control it anymore, that is one of those that would qualify for this extra help. So, and again, those are some of those things that are going to come up. And you don't, and as I mentioned, you have that 360 days of benefits. It can be more than a year if you're not needing the benefit every day. Maybe you do have a spouse that is taking care of these things, but they can't do it 24/7, 365. They need to take a break once in a while. Or maybe they're sick and they need somebody they can't take care of you because they can't even take care of themselves right now. So there's other scenarios of where these plans have come in very handy. Now, these plans aren't that expensive. That was kind of what I wanted to get into. Let's see how much time I've got. All right, I've got a good amount of time. I've got about 10 minutes left. One of the things, so as I mentioned, there's 3 levels. We kind of say the bronze, silver, gold, and they're just called basic, standard, and complete. So you could get skilled nursing care, even though in Medicare you may have Medicare or your health care plan paying for that, but this still helps you because you're going to have co-pays a lot of times with those things. But it's $100, $200, or $300 is that benefit. And then there's general nursing care, so it may be a CNA and not an RN, and it's $80, $160, or $240. Physical therapy and speech therapy could all be, $100, $200, $300. And sometimes there's some chemotherapy things and medical social services, $120, $240, $360. So you have a maximum daily benefit on these the services I just listed. But there's $200, $400, or $600, depending on if you have bronze, silver, or gold. And then there's also the home health aid, as I mentioned, that you can have up to 120 days. It comes basic with a 60-day package. And the reason I say 60 days, that's not necessarily 2 months. You can have that person come in 2 days a week. That's 60 days, or 120 days could go quite a long time. The other was if you're using it as respite care for your spouse who's taking the other days, it can go a little The other thing that's neat with these plans is they have a prescription reimbursement. Reimbursement is not the right term. I keep saying it, but basically it's a rebate. If you were taking 10 or more prescriptions, this plan will pretty much virtually pay for itself. If you're getting your prescriptions, every month, and if they're generic, it's going to pay you. You have to submit paperwork for it, but you get $15 per prescription filled each time it's filled. If it's if you get a 3-month supply, that's still just going to be a one-time fill. So it actually is one of those times it works out in your benefit if you get them every month. And then brand name drugs is going to be $30 reimbursement. So on the basic, standard, or complete, the annual maximum that you get back from that is $360 and $720 on the standard and complete. It's the same amount on those on the drug reimbursement. And you could actually have your insurance paid for, this insurance plan paid for with your prescription reimbursement. So makes it a lot more affordable. One of the big things on this, one of the things I like on this plan is it's not available to everybody, but it is from age 40 to age 85 can get this plan. Some other plans you have to be other companies have similar plans. You have to be 60. So that's one of the things I like about this plan with Heartland National. It also comes in handy when you've heard me talk about with a Medicare Advantage plan. They definitely encourage people to get a hospital indemnity plan that will pay reimbursement for like a hospital stay and outpatient surgery, emergency room, those kind of things. Now, this plan does have a hospital stay, 100, 200, or 300, depending on the level of the plan you have. Again, bronze, silver, or gold. That will reimburse, and you can set that up to reimburse for 3, 6, or 10 days. There are some Medicare Advantage plans out there that have gone to having like 8 days that you have a copay when you're in the hospital. So this is something that can help cover that. And one of the beauties of this being is this could kind of work for a guaranteed issue hospital indemnity plan because those plans are a little more strictly underwritten. Again, that 6-month pre-existing waiting period would come into play, but maybe you might not qualify for a traditional hospital indemnity because of that, and you could add this benefit on there. That's one of the riders. There's also a severe accidental death benefit that's up to you can get a $5,000 or $10,000 to pay out your beneficiary, and it also covers some disability, fractures, hip or knee dislocation would pay out a benefit on that. And I mentioned that home health aid benefit up to 120 days. And then there is an ambulance rider you can get from 100 to 500. And a quote I ran for somebody yesterday to get the $500 ambulance reimbursement, it added like $5 a month to the plan. So it really wasn't a lot. And again, would cover that ambulance, especially comes in handy if you're on an Advantage plan. And it will cover up to 4 trips a year. It's 12 lifetime, but hopefully you're not going to have to use an ambulance 12 times in your life. So that comes in really handy. And I mentioned the drug plan the drug reimbursement could actually pay your premium. I've heard instances where some people are actually they're right now being paid to have the plan because of the way they structured their plan. For their different benefits, they weren't spending that much a month. So I did a quote for somebody yesterday. I didn't put the daily hospital on it because this person has a Medicare supplement, and so doesn't need a hospital confinement. Can add it, but don't need it. But the basic premium for the complete plan was $21.77, and then so they weren't doing the daily benefit on the hospitalization, but with the $10,000 life insurance was $601 is the cost on that. Adding the 60 days for the home health aid just raised it up $182, and then as I mentioned, the $500 ambulance was just $5 a month added onto that. So it's not real expensive, and you can go ahead and look into getting And you can give us a call, and we'll run a quote for you. And like I said, if you're 40 or older, 40 to 85. If you're over 85, I can't help you with this. They're not going to take that. They figure you're apt to use the benefits before they get any value out of what they charged you. So, like I said, insurance is about exchanging risk, not just somebody else paying for your health care. So I wanted to go into a little more detail on the home health. That's why I brought in some papers today to kind of read over. And if you got questions, please reach out to me. I think a lot of people are talking about this plan right now, and it's probably because we're in ROY, as we call it, rest of the year. We're not doing a lot of Medicare because it's not the enrollment season for folks. We're doing more Medicare. Either someone's turning 65 or somebody moved into our area. I've been doing a few of both of those recently. So give us a call. Give me a call. Email me something and see if you want to look into these. I think you'll find it very affordable and very beneficial. And again, until next show, remember, at Matt Libby Insurance, we can cover you from head to toe. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. Please go to insurancematchmaking.com, and you can listen to previous shows. Also, there's a comment section there that you can ask a question or recommend a guest for the show, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. If you listen to a recent show with Steve Moore, he called me up and said, "Hey, I've got a suggestion for your show." He says, "It's me." And so we did get together, and we did his by phone because he's not able to drive. If you listen to the show, you'll understand why. And we'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.